Arizona and New Mexico were declared in a state of emergency last week by their own governors, and now a Virginia state legislator is asking Governor Mark Warner to do the same as a last-ditch effort to prevent illegal immigrants from overwhelming the state. Jeffrey Frederick is the Republican state delegate. Welcome, Jeffrey. Thank you.
Thank you.
Why is Virginia in such bad shape? 120,000 illegal residents in that state. Illegal people in this country living in your state.
At least. Well, they come through the borders on the Mexican border, whether it's Canada or wherever, and they land in Virginia and a couple other states as well. And we have a big problem, whether it's increased public service costs, whether it's a strain on local law enforcement, or intimidation of citizens at my local 7-Eleven, or gangs.
Who's hiring them? What's the draw? They must be getting jobs here. They wouldn't be coming.
They sure are. A lot of builders.
Who's hiring them? What kind of businesses?
A lot of builders. You know, there's been a big construction boom in Northern Virginia.
Well, aren't these builders required to show green cards for their employees?
You would think. You know, I run a small business, and one of the things that I have to do when I hire somebody is I fill out an I-9, have to certify under penalty of perjury that I've seen papers from people that make them eligible to vote. I don't know why they're allowed to get away with it, and that's a way that we need to approach the problem.
Are the people in your state in the tank on this? Are the people at the top of your government and the governor, the other state legislatures in leadership positions getting rewarded for turning a blind eye to this illegality?
I don't believe so.
Then why are they permitting it?
Well, I think people are trying to do everything that they can. The problem is the federal government is letting this happen.
Your state, your Commonwealth, hands out driver's licenses. It's one of the states in this regard who gives driver's licenses, in other words, proof of ID.
That's right.
To people who aren't even legally in the country.
Well, 3 years ago we passed a law called legal presence, and that changed that.
Oh, so you can't get a driver's license in Virginia anymore if you're not here illegally.
That's correct. You have to show documentation that proves that you're illegally authorized to be in the United States of America.
What do you have to show?
You have to show some sort of proof, whether it's a green card or whether it's a...
You think it's working?
I think it is so far.
So the people driving cars to work in Virginia, the 120,000 people on the highways of Virginia, including Route 95, are driving illegally because they must be. They're here illegally and they're driving.
There are quite a few that are here driving illegally, but that's not just that's not just illegal immigrants. There's a lot of people that drive illegally.
That don't have a car, a driver's license.
That's right.
Let me ask you what you think should be done. You say declare a state of emergency. Well, that's a procedure, but how will that drive people? Are you going to go through the state? Why don't they just go through your... Well, why don't you talk about how you're going to actually get this done if you're serious?
Well, in New Mexico and Arizona, the governors both declared state of emergencies.
Yeah, that's good PR.
That made them eligible.
It looks like they're doing something.
Well, it made them eligible for additional federal Homeland Security funding. And one of the complaints that we get among people is funding to do the things, at state level, everybody wants money. And one of the largest complaints we have from law enforcement in trying to enforce our laws, whether it's immigration laws or whether it's something as small as loitering, is that they just don't have the resources to handle this stuff. If we're able to get some resources from the federal government to confront this problem because they're not dealing with it adequately, then that helps.
Somebody's working at a name brand chain, convenience store, restaurant, whatever, in a field, in a field. They're working hard. I'm not knocking them. They're working hard. Who's supposed to check and see once in a while, see if they're in the country illegally? Who's supposed to walk up to them and say, "Me, sir, can I see your identification?" Who's supposed to be doing that?
We don't want to have
No, who's supposed to be doing that?
Who's supposed to be doing it? Well, an officer stops somebody.
Which kind, the federal or state? Is it INS or
well, if somebody gets stopped for, right now in Virginia, if somebody gets stopped for driving without a license, they'll probably go to jail for a little while, and then they'll be released. Yet they know that they're here illegally, but they're not going to turn them over to INS. Sometimes I guess they might, but most of the time they don't. They let them go free on the street. Why not? Because they don't want to enforce our immigration laws.
Who's telling the police, the state troopers, not to do that, not to arrest anybody when they won't show an ID, they won't show their driver's license?
I don't know who's telling them that. I'm not the governor.
You're smiling.
I'm not the governor.
You can call your leader of your party right now and say, what's the story? Why don't we as a party, we're Republicans, we're for law enforcement, we're conservatives, we want the law enforced in this country. We don't want people coming to this country, and the first thing they do is break the law by coming here. That can't be a Republican idea, can it?
Well,
unless you guys are pandering for votes.
We have an executive branch in Virginia. The state police fall in the executive branch. The governor is Governor Warner. He's a Democrat. He's not a member of my party.
Do you believe that he's pandering by refusing to enforce the law?
I think in some fashion he is.
In some fashion? Why are you using these words? Why else would he not? Are there other laws in Virginia that aren't being enforced besides immigration?
I sent the governor a letter on Friday.
Right.
You would have I confirmed with his chief of staff Friday afternoon that he received it. If he really wanted to do something about it, heck, he got calls from the Washington Times yesterday for a comment on it and refused to have a comment. The best comment they had was that, why do we need to protect our North Carolina border? I mean, if he really wanted to get behind this, I don't know what the problem is.
Okay, let me suggest what it might be, and you tell me. You're the politician. You've been elected already by your people down in Prince William County, right? Right on 95. You told me this before, right near Quantico.
That's right.
I know that place. It seems to me, tell me if I'm wrong, that both parties now, the Republican and Democratic Party, the Republican Party of George W. Bush, are seeking very hard to win Hispanic votes.
That's correct.
The Republicans, by the way, call them Hispanics. Democrats call those people, that community, Latinos. Just interesting.
I call them Latino.
Right, okay, you're in the Democratic parlance there. Are both parties trying to be nicer to illegal people, to show their support for that community, because somehow being against illegal immigration is being perceived or sold to be somehow nice to the Latino community in this country?
I can't speak from the federal level. I represent...
Well, you're a politician.
I represent 80,000 people in eastern Prince William County.
What do they want?
They
want the law enforced?
They want the law enforced. I get an email or a call almost every day about this issue. What am I going to do? And I've got ideas.
Your answer is?
I've got ideas for some legislation. We've passed some legislation this year in Virginia. We passed a bill that said that local and state government are prohibited from providing public services to illegal immigrants.
Why don't you pass a law that says any state trooper who stops someone in the country illegally and doesn't take action should be fired?
I will be firing.
Wouldn't that be a good law to pass?
I'll be filing.
Wouldn't they get the word right away, the state troopers to enforce the law?
I have plans to file legislation in January that will require that the state police enforce our immigration laws.
At what price if they don't?
At
if
what
they're getting
price?
whispered in their ear by their commanding officers, don't really do this. We don't want to create a community problem here. It doesn't do any good what you're saying.
I'm in the legislative branch. We pass the laws and we leave it to the governor to enforce them, and we're hoping
Well, how
that
about
we'll
a
have
penalty that's serious?
a penalty that's serious?
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to get that through the legislature.
Well, if you're going to be tough, you got to be tough.
I agree.
120,000 illegal people in your state.
That's right.
They're not paying
or
taxes.
more.
Are they paying taxes?
Most of them aren't.
Okay, thank you very much, Jeffrey Frederick. I've been playing hardball with you, but looks like you got some guts. Anyway, hardball did invite Virginia Governor Mark to appear on the show tonight, but he declined. Up next, 4 out of 5 Americans believe they're being intentionally lied to or misled or given inaccurate information by the U.S. military. And an investigation into the death of former National Football League player and Army Ranger Pat Tillman. Why did the military tell us up front he was killed in friendly fire? Christopher Hitchens of Vanity Fair and Deborah Orrin from the New York Post when Hardball returns.